Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In the previous videos in this series, we took a look at converting these Tuya-based energy smart metering plugs using ESPhome to create a native API connection to Home Assistant. And although that works great, and I showed you in the last video how you can take a look at some real-time graphs and statistics from within Home Assistant, I wanted more. What I'm actually really interested in is the usage over time and how much that power usage is costing me per device, or at least per plug I've plugged in. Now for this I'm using Grafana, and Grafana is a standalone package combined with InfluxDB, but this isn't going to be a tutorial about how you install InfluxDB or Grafana in your Home Assistant environment. Both InfluxDB and Grafana are available in the Hass.io add-on store, and they're made by Frank. Frank is another great YouTuber who's made a lot of awesome plugins for Home Assistant, including Node-RED, and he doesn't maybe make the software, but he makes the plugins so you can install them with one click. So check that out. I'll have his YouTube channel in the description, and you should be able to find tons of guides which explain easily how you can link Home Assistant to InfluxDB and how you can then link Grafana to InfluxDB, and that Grafana can use the data that Home Assistant sends to InfluxDB to create beautiful graphs. So, slight word of warning, I'm no expert in Grafana either. I'm just going to show you what I've been able to create relating to these energy metering plugs and the data we get from them. Okay, now that we have that all set up, I want to create a few graphs. First, I want to monitor real-time energy usage, but I also want to see energy usage over time. So how many kilowatt hours has a certain device used in X period of time. And then third, I want to convert that so that it shows how much euros, I live in the Netherlands, the device used over that X period of time. And preferably, I would like X period of time to be a variable, so I could set it to a day or a week or a month or whatever I'd like. So let's take a look at that. To start, let's make a graph that shows the real-time power usage over time. To start, we are going to use energy meters 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for this. 1 to 3 are connected to my LED lighting, 4 is our dryer, and 5 is the washing machine. This should give you a good impression of how this works. To start, in Grafana, click the little graph plus icon and select Choose Visualization. Oh, and as a quick note, I've just updated my Grafana plugin version to version 6. So things might look a little bit different than it did before. Good, now that we have this new graph, we need to fill it with data. To do that, on the left-hand side, select the 3 stacked circles called queries. There, we are going to select our energy meter, which Home Assistant has added to our database. The easiest way to do this is by selecting Select Measurement and choosing for Watt, or W. Then select the plus icon to the right of that and select Entity ID. And you should see a list of all available energy meters or other sensors that register in Watt. If you don't see the Watt or W or the Entity IDs, your link to InfluxDB and or Home Assistant isn't functional yet, so I'll have to check that first. Now you can see the first part of the graph we want to see is starting to appear. The next thing we edit is that we change time $_interval to 10 seconds, since our energy meters also send every 10 seconds. Then we're going to remove the fill null by clicking on the left side of that box and choosing Remove. The last thing is to give the measurement a name, so I'm calling it LED Central Wiring Closet. But you can give it any name that's appropriate for your situation. Next, we're going to add the other measurements in the same way. We can do this easily by copying the current line and then just changing the wattage meter and the name for that source. Once done, we hit the save icon in the top right so we don't lose what we've already made. Then, on the left side, we go to the second icon, Visualization, and we're going to change a few things to make the graph look a bit nicer. The first thing we're going to change is null value. We want to change that to connected. so that even when there's no measurement at that time, it will show a continuous line. Then, since we are measuring in watt, we want the graph to also show this. To do this, we scroll down a little bit to the axis and there we select left Y and change the unit to energy, W. Scrolling down some more, we can also make some changes to the legend. First, we turn on as a table, and then to the right. Then, over at values, we enable average, current, and max. Minimum works, but isn't very useful, and total can't be used in this case. And that's it. First graph is done. Hit save again and then hit the back arrow in the top left corner. Now we can play around with the date ranges to see how much power was generated by what device and when. Okay, looks cool, but now that we have this graph, let's make another one that instead of shows you how much power was used at what time, it shows you how much power was used in total over a period, so in kilowatt hours. Let's do that. We start off very similar and create a new visualization graph. There we go to queries again and start by adding a sensor in W again, or watt, just like we did last time. But now we need to do a bit of math to show what we want to know. To do this, we start with removing mean and adding the following. We go to aggregations and choose integral. Then we go to transformations and choose commutative sum. And then we do a math division and divide by 3600. To finish off, we again remove the fill null and add a name. Now we can just add our other energy meters by copying this rule again and selecting the correct energy meters and giving each copy a name. Once that is done, hit the save icon again, and we go to the Visualizations tab and change some parameters over there. For left Y, we now select watt hours as the unit to see the graph correctly. We again change the legend options to show as a table and to the right. And then for the values, we select only current. And again, another graph is complete. And as you can see, we can change around the time ranges in the top right, and the graph will scale with that. So if we wanted to see a few hours, a day, or a week, we can do so using the same graph and it'll recalculate each time. But let's make this graph a little bit more fancy. To make the graph a bit more fancy, we go back into the graph and give the graph a name. We also enable sorting for the values. In the general overview, where you see all your graphs, you can also click on the current, min, max, etc. that you have listed there and sort those to get a good overview. Okay, well this graph is cool too, but what we really all want to know is, well, we bought these things, they costed money, are they going to save us money, or what is costing us this money? So let's make another graph and make it graph money. To start off, we're going to duplicate our total power used graph and edit that copy. First, we change the name and then we're going to change the math that is used in the formula in the queries part. In my case, 1 kilowatt hour of power costs about 25 cents. So that is what a 0.25 is in the formula. If your power costs a different amount, it doesn't matter if it's euro or dollar, just fill in what it costs for you to buy a kilowatt hour of power. Next, we need to change the graph to a stacked graph and change the units because it's not kilowatt hour now, but euro, well, in my case. Hit save and back out of the graph. And there you have it. You can now see real-time power usage over time, and actually how much that power costed you during that time it was used. And as I showed before, you can change the date range in the top right to whatever you'd like, and it'll show you all these graphs in that time period. Now, if you build this out with, if you're stupid enough as me, like to buy 18 of these things, and I still have the urge to buy more. I shouldn't buy more, but I want to. I want to measure all the things. Anyway, if you look at my situation, my graphs, you see about 16 of them, because I don't have all of them in use yet. And, well, let's take a look. So, in the last 7 days, it seems the dryer was the main culprit of costing me all my money. It used a whopping €3, which isn't that much, but that's still good to know. Looking at the graphs I have of all these measurements in them, they can become a bit messy, and I'm sure there's better ways to do this in Grafana. I just don't know about it yet. But what you can do is you can select individual query sources, or in this case energy plugs, and view those individually or a few of them, so that if you have one device that's spiking very big, you can actually filter it out and look at the devices you want to see at that time. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you found it informative. Let me know in the comments. As always, if you have any questions, you're welcome in the comments. And if you like my channel, maybe subscribe and consider joining our Discord server. We always have fun discussions there, so you're certainly welcome. And then the last video in this series, which is probably going to be the last video in this series for a while, and we'll take a look at some energy savings I've been able to realize through the house by the insight these plugs provided. And also we'll take a look at Node-RED and show you some automations which might save you quite a lot of, well, euros, dollars, energy, kilowatt hours, whatever, over time. And maybe actually have these plugs pay for themselves, because, well, that's the initial goal, I guess. So, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back in the next video. Bye-bye.